I'm sick and tired of DC and Joe Rogan on the UFC commentary. I mean, for real, something needs to be done about it, because just last weekend, Merab Dvalishvili lost his bantamweight title to Petr Yan at UFC 323, and the commentary during the fight was so atrocious to where they were favoring Merab. And now a few days have gone by and we have DC and Chael coping for Merab about the warm-up and all this different stuff. I know that Joe Rogan gets a ton of flack for his low effort, out of the loop, dated commentary takes, but Daniel Cormier is just as bad. So in this video, we're going to talk about the problem with UFC commentary and the fighters and commentators that are making excuses for Merab's loss at UFC 323. Stick around to hear the full story. My name is Wyatt. Welcome to Fight Society. All right, guys, so before we get into the video, do me a huge favor, like and subscribe down below. And if you're watching on your phone, swipe left on the comment section and hit that hype button as well. It's a new YouTube feature that allows you to help small creators like myself even more and help push us in the algorithm even more than liking, commenting, and subscribing. Let's get into it. So this past weekend at UFC 323 and new and again, UFC bantamweight Petr Yan absolutely dominated Merab Dvalishvili, who may very well be the fighter of the year, even with this loss. It was a very exciting fight, not a whole lot of back and forth. It was generally going Petr Yan's way with a few good moments for Merab, but overall a very one-sided fight. I scored it 49-46 for Petr Yan, which was really interesting because the first time they fought like 2.5, 3 years ago, it was dominantly in Merab's favor, like 50-45, 50-44 in Merab's favor. And this one was a complete 180. And I think that's what makes this sport so interesting. It was a potential fight of the year candidate. It was really fun, but the commentary during the fight from Joe Rogan and Daniel Cormier was fucking atrocious. Daniel Cormier glazing Merab, saying that it was 2-0 Merab, 3-0 Merab, and then being confused when the little tweets that pop up on the side were actually favoring Petr Yan 2-1, 3-0, and all of that. He was confused, and he always glazes the wrestlers. We know this. But even worse than that, he sat there in the middle of the broadcast and he goes, I just got a text. I just got a text message, and then doesn't elaborate at all about what the text message was about. He just says he got a text message, literally doesn't explain what he's talking about at all. This is just another example in the very long list of DC just being a bad commentator. We've talked about Joe Rogan. I've actually made dedicated videos to Joe Rogan being a bad commentator as well. But let's be real. They are for the casual fans. They don't know what the fuck they're looking at. And it's weird to say that because Rogan has been around the sport for 20 plus years. He's commentated thousands of fights at this point. DC was a former double champion. And so for these two guys who on paper, Anthony Smith on paper, should be amazing commentators, are frankly just terrible. Terrible, bad for the sport. And you have so many new casual fans that are coming into the sport, and that number is only going to grow with the Paramount Plus deal and the end of the pay-per-view era. The sport is going to be more accessible than it ever has been before. You're going to have DC and Rogan on the commentary leading these new fans astray to where they actually don't understand what they're looking at. DC sits there and says 2-0 Merab, 3-0 Merab, and then he's flabbergasted when he is wrong, literally just wrong, and the other tweets point that out. And let's be real, this isn't the only time, and this isn't the first time that DC has given some very lazy commentary along with Joe Rogan. This right here is Daniel Cormier on Contender Series, literally just housing some chicken tenders or French fries or whatever while he's commentating the fight.
Cut down. Oh my God. It got way worse. What an absolute war. These guys got in each other's face. And when God tried to get momentum, to get forward, this is what this show is about, guys.
He's literally eating into the microphone for the event that you're watching. These guys are paid $50,000 an event, sometimes 40. But Rogan, Bruce Buffer, DC, John Anik, The other people that fill in, like Michael Bisping, Dom Cruz, they're paid between $25,000 and $50,000 for 7 hours of work. Now, DC, I'll give it to him. He at least shows up during fight week. Joe Rogan shows up on Friday, eats a bag of edibles, does the ceremonial weigh-ins, does no tape review, sits down on Saturday night and commentates on prelim fights for guys he's never heard of because he's not a fan of the sport. He's literally not a fan of the sport. Let's be real. Joe Rogan is not an MMA fan. Joe Rogan was an MMA fan and now just likes his low effort job of being able to show up and commentate fights. I'm sure he likes the sport, but he is not an MMA fan. He does not follow the sport closely, and his takes are just fucking atrocious. And to expand on Joe Rogan's just terrible, terrible takes on the sport, Jon Jones multiple times over has been boxed out of the UFC White House event by Dana White. Dana White saying that he just can't trust Jon Jones in a big spot. And don't forget that 20 weeks ago, something like that, I was just seeing it on Twitter, Rogan backed Dana White on keeping Jon Jones off the White House card because Dana said he couldn't trust him. But now, 2 days ago, he's saying it's a travesty if they don't put Jon Jones on the White House card. This right here.
They don't do Jon Jones at the White House. I think it'd be a travesty. Dana's like, you can't count on him. You can't count on him. Come on, stop. At the White House? Come on. What kind of insecurity are they going to have?
There's no way that you can trust Jon Jones in any scenario. He's too much of a prima donna. He's too much of a loose cannon, whether it's his ego pulling him out of the fight over placement on the card or pay, or it's him getting injured like he did with the Stipe fight, or it's him getting himself in trouble like he does, beating on his wife in front of their children and getting arrested in Vegas after his Hall of Fame ceremony, crashing his car drunk driving, getting caught with strippers, allegedly attacking a stripper. Like, there's so many different things that Jon Jones has done. So for DC to glaze Merab, for one, and two, for Joe Rogan to say that it's a travesty if Jon Jones is not on the White House card, dude, fuck Jon Jones. Keep him off the White House card for all I care. I don't want to see some fucking crash out 40-year-old man that ducks the hardest fights, gets himself in trouble, piece of shit, gets a headline or be a part of the biggest card in UFC history. He's fucked up way too much for the UFC, and they can't have him headline. And furthermore, when it comes to bad commentary, DC and Chael Sonnen making excuses for Merab's loss. But I got to give you some context before I show this video, because Merab's best friend and teammate, Aljamain Sterling, the former bantamweight champion himself, is coping about Merab's loss, saying that it was because of the warm-up, all right? And you even see I commented right here saying, I like Aljo, he seems cool, but bruh is always coping about something. Same thing when he lost to O'Malley. Oh, they rushed me into it, and Merab this, and O'Malley, and my Petr Yan shouldn't have fucking did this, and who cares? But this right here is Aljamain Sterling explaining how the warm-up contributed to Merab's loss.
Like, we're thinking, okay, we'll get ready. As soon as this fight's over, we'll start getting ready. We start getting warmed up. We did about 15 minutes, maybe a little shy of that, of warming up how we typically do. And Pantoja dislocates his elbow, and it's just a huge curveball in our warm-up. And then we're like, well, we think we did enough. And he looks ready. He was sweating good. So we're like, all right, we should be good to go, even though this was very unexpected. We didn't get a chance to, like, warm up, then let it.
So he should be good, even though this isn't what we expected. But then when he loses the fight, it's the reason he lost.
Come down a little bit and then get ready to go.
And that clip right there leads us into DC and Chael saying that Merab not getting a proper warm-up cost him the belt. Quote, Merab didn't get the warm-up he wanted because Van versus Pantoja ended early and they had to walk much sooner than expected. This is what they had to say.
But what I was more interested in was Aljamain Sterling came out and said, one, he felt like Merab, the activity was a lot. Maybe that was too much, I think. And then he also said, Merab didn't get the warm-up that he wanted. He said they were thinking to themselves, as soon as Brandon Moreno's fight was over, they would start to warm up. They'll start getting ready. But then the Joshua Van Pantoja fight went as it went. And so they ended up going much sooner than they expected to. Chael, many people will say it's just an excuse. But Chael, you don't get to warm up the correct way before a fight it has all kinds of impact, not only physically, but emotionally.
Daniel, I fully agree. I mean, in the world of excuse making, this one's going to go right over people's head, and they're really not going to understand. So maybe you and I that have been in the locker room can try to illustrate this, but it's a big deal. You will visualize a fight every night from the day you sign that contract. Every meal that you have, you're wondering what your opponent's eating. Every practice you're at, you're wondering how hard is he trained. But you're thinking about that night. You're thinking about Bruce Buffer. You're thinking about that walkout song. You're thinking about the crowd maybe cheering you, maybe booing you. And I only share for you, when that gets disrupted, at the last second, it starts to weigh on you. Now, whether it should or not can be another conversation. I'm just speaking to the reality that it does. And if I can offer you this, in the sport of boxing, Mike Tyson specifically would put in his contract the time that he would leave the locker room.
That's because boxing's full of prima donnas. Let's be real. Boxing's full of prima donnas that think every little tiny detail affects the fight.
And it was a big deal. Sometimes you'd be watching a boxing event, the co-main event gets over, you go, are they going to bring this main event out? And these announcers are up there, they're killing time, they're doing a podcast. What a lot of people don't know is the champion many times will put in his contract when he leaves the locker room just for this very reason. So that if anything happens, he does not get rushed. I know in our sport, you got to deal with it. But I don't look at this as an excuse. I thought it was an insight. When Aljo gave this to us, I looked at it as an insight. I thought it was very compelling, frankly.
I look at this as an excuse, 100%. It's not an insight. It's an excuse. It's definitely an insight into the excuse-making mindset of Aljo and these guys. But no, this is not an insight. This is an excuse. You are the main event. You've main evented before. Your job is to be ready to walk when it's time for the main event to walk. Now, I'll give him a little bit of leeway here because Joshua Van versus Pantoja ended in 26 seconds. That was unexpected, yes, but there could have been a 26-second knockout. What happened then? What's your excuse then? That it's not because of the injury, it's because of the knockout? It doesn't make any sense to me that these guys that have fought 5-round fights, main events, tons of times are going to sit here and complain about the difference of 5 minutes, the difference of 10 minutes. The difference of 30 minutes. It's your job to be ready to walk after the co-main event. Quick break. If you're loving this video and you want more from Fight Society, click that join button down below to become a channel member today, where you'll get access to members-only live streams, behind-the-scenes vlogs, and all the unfiltered stuff that we don't post to the main channel. Back to the video. Whether that is a 1-second fight or a 25-minute decision, you are supposed to be ready to walk at the end of the fight. What happens if the Pantoja fight goes 25 minutes? Then they go, oh, Merab got cold. We had too long to warm up. It's just bullshit. Like, you have to be ready. And he talks about how it's, oh, people that haven't been in the locker room, this will go over their heads because they haven't been in the locker room. I've been in fight locker rooms before. I was a fighter myself. I fought in Muay Thai tournaments where you had to fight more than once in a day. They have you warming up in a fucking parking structure next to the hotel where they're doing the fights in the banquet hall or, the conference room essentially of the hotel. And you're warming up in a parking garage outside, like for mine, in Arizona, 100 degrees outside in May or April, I can't remember. And it's 100+ degrees. You're warming up outside. They have a long list of bouts. There's literally hundreds of fights happening throughout the day. You might warm up, go inside to fight, and you got to sit there for 20 minutes next to your opponent. That literally happened to me. I sat next to my opponent for like 20 minutes. We both sitting there getting cold. Or you get rushed in and you're kind of like scrambled because they go, hey, you got to walk right now. You got to get you got to get in the ring right now. So everybody from amateurs all the way to UFC world champions has to deal with the pacing of the show being a little bit unpredictable. You can't sit there and say, oh my God, we lost the belt because of this. DC's coping. He has terrible takes. He's a terrible commentator that eats into the mic on the broadcast. Talks about text messages that he gets, doesn't say who, doesn't elaborate what it's even about, just says, I got a text message, doesn't explain anything. And DC just eating on the mic, Rogan giving bad insight. And honestly, this old Conor McGregor clip is the perfect encapsulation of what getting ready for a fight, having rituals, warm-ups, lucky pants, whatever. This is the perfect mindset that fighters should have, in my opinion.
Thing about rituals, yeah? Rituals is another word for fear. Oh man, I forgot my lucky pants. I'm gonna lose. That's you know what I mean? What? Lucky pants? Or lucky something? Or I have to drink this before I go out? Or I have to bless myself 55 times and do, you know what I mean? It's all just another word for fear. You're afraid. So you're trying to tell yourself, I need to do this. I've done this before and it worked. This little detail that I done in my warm-up or something, I've done that and it worked. Now I must always do it. You could throw me in there any time, you know what I mean? You could throw me in there. I don't need no rituals. You could warm me up. I could warm up in this chair, you know what I mean? And throw me out there and I'm still gonna perform. I'm still gonna go out and do what I do. There is no rituals. Rituals to me is another word for fear. Superstitions and all that. Just another word for fear. And I don't fear nothing.
And that's the mindset that you got to have. And I know there's plenty of people that are going to talk shit in the comment section of this video about Conor's mentality. You got to be ready to walk when it's time to walk. You don't decide when the walk takes place. The fights, the pacing, the event, the organization, they decide when you walk. All right. So for somebody like Merab, who's done this 4 times this year, for them to go and start making excuses for the loss on the warm-up, it's pussy. And I have a lot of respect for Merab. He's not my favorite fighter. I don't think his fight style is all that fun. I think he's kind of just annoying and loud and rants and mumbles and doesn't make any sense on the mic. But I have a lot of respect for what he did this year as champion. It's one of the best title runs in recent history, and it all happened within a calendar year. But with that said, you can't blame it on the fucking warm-up. And to be fair, Merab's not the one making excuses. DC and Chael and Aljamain Sterling are the ones making excuses for Merab. And it's just a pussy mindset. Merab took it on the chin and said he wants to do a rematch in April or March. That's what a champ does. And then you got all these jokers like Aljamain Sterling around him and people like DC that are and Chael that are giving commentary to the casual fan going into what's going to be the biggest streaming rights deal in UFC history, misinforming casual fans that don't know any better. I was a fighter. I know. I've done it before. I literally know that this is wrong. But you have so many casual fans. I'm not using casual in like an insulting way or a condescending way. I'm just saying people that don't watch every fight. People that don't train, people that haven't fought before, people that are new to the sport even. They're dipping their toes into MMA. That commentary from these type of guys is just bullshit. And Rogan too. Rogan's over there saying it's 2-0 Merab, all this stuff. You are doing a disservice to the sport and fucking these fans over and how they watch fights because you're lazy, you have a dated mindset, and you're giving a half-baked opinion on the fight. The fight is happening in front of you. I know there's emotions and there's the crowd going on and stuff, but you were a world champion, DC. You fought for titles, Chael Sonnen. Joe Rogan, you've been covering the sport for 25 years. Fucking lock in. If we're going to deal with this bullshit in the biggest era in UFC history, we got to get better commentators. We got to get Bisping on the mic. Bisping is a little bit unprofessional. He argues with his co-hosts and stuff like that, but Bisping does have good analysis, all right? Dom Cruz has pretty good analysis most of the time. Even John Anik, who wasn't even a fighter, he was a guy that came over from other sports, was working for Bellator, ended up in the UFC. He has way more value to add to fights. And he's the play-by-play guy. He's not even the color guy or the analysis guy. He's the play-by-play call. And he's even better than guys that were double champions in the UFC. So that's where I'm at, guys. I mean, shout out to Petr Yan. Shout out to Merab, one of the best fights of the year. But this bullshit that is going around coping about Merab's loss is just annoying and wrong and misleading for fans. So let me know your thoughts down below. We need new commentators. Do you want more from Fight Society? Like and subscribe below this video and click the join button to become a channel member today to get access to behind the scenes vlogs and members only live streams.